Some say not it gets better, they make them get do one. Some say not even what's life and shoes on. Do you do? Last you pass no cause to complain. So you want it to you, and so you never and I come get married. You get so married. Get married. You get so married. No, no for you, but me get married. But you put according to your size. What? Elephant said, not so pretty load. Not always for the right time. Where God go stand for you. Married, hey, married, gentle, hey, but some married them today, not so good example at all. You get so married, you married, you get some just say not the person in a sense with not married. Some money wish, no more married. Live a better life and then happy family. And I see married, but it's every very controversial. Get married. You get so married. Get married. You get so married. No, no for you, but we are married. Get married. You get so married. Get married. You get so married. You get so married. No, no for you. Okay, Fambulem, a warm good evening and warm welcome to another edition of the Then and Now program. Me with the talk, me now on a host and presenter, Prince Emil Kroma. We come to on today, Friday, the 21st of February 2020. And the time we start the broadcast from is 9 p.m. in the evening. And a very warm welcome. As usual, every broadcast getting your own significance and your importance. This is another one all together. And together, we are the Askuna. First of all, can we perform the normal ritual? If we can share this video far and wide, please, okay? Far and wide. Please let me share the video. So today, the broadcast is based on some important dates in the history of the country. And this is the wedding between the First Lady, Mrs. Fatima, Her Excellency, Mrs. Fatima Bio, and the President of the Republic, retired Brigadier, His Excellency, Julius Maada Bio. Well, as usual, controversy is never really far away, both in the church and the state, and many things don't happen lately, and everything about the country is kind of divisive, very, very divisive. So much so that even married is politics. But will you really blame those who are politicizing such an event as was held today, where the president married in wife for the second term? Yes, there are many questions, many critical questions are being asked. And one of the most critical one is, why now, as we title the broadcast? Why now? So together we go try for look at the merits of this marriage, the disadvantages, and try for answer the questions the way we ask. Is it a priority? Are other things not a priority at this critical time? Is it waste? Would a bankroll, or how was the wedding bankroll? And many other questions that we will try for ask during the course of this short but very, very critical broadcast. So Fambulem, there we go. Remember, say, I don't want to hold a monologue on this particular broadcast. I want to have a dialogue. So if you get a point where you want to make a question, where you want to ask a contribution you intend for make, please don't hesitate for call 077 4010 7250. If you call from abroad, don't forget the country code 44 and omit the 0. So 44 7740 10 7250. Like I've been saying, Fambulem, controversy is never really far away when it comes to issues in Sierra Leone for a while now, for quite a while. But social media has gone overdrive over the last 2 years, from election time up to the point where we are now. So much so, like I say, that everything is politicized. The church in itself is never, especially the Catholic Church, it's never really far away from controversy, from time immemorial, going back to the slave trade, and that's hundreds of years ago, up to present day as we speak, even today, regarding the wedding of the president of the Republic of Sierra Leone. So we know, say, the Archbishop, okay, of the Catholic Church in Sierra Leone, the Most Reverend Dr. Edward Tamba Charles, of course, the head of the diocese na Freetown, say, Benontel, we say, that clearance day for ladies married take place. So as usual, the marriage begin like them boku rumor them waking day na social media. Back to the slave trade. Boku talk their waking day na social. So people then take them for a big joke, not be very, very serious, until the last minute before people actually realize, say, wow, so this is real, this marriage indeed is going to take place. And it be ma, like people like him put up, it be ma. So now as it don't be, we ask the question, was it a necessity at this time? Because remember, to take a wife is a good thing, but you're already married. Some people, let me say, the president married. I mean, I speak to 2, 3, 4 senior people, we deny they're not married. In previous, now we know wife, because when you read the release from them, then now say that yes, the president of the time was married to Mrs. Frances Bio, but that married no longer exists as they be non-part company. But the controversy Fambulem is within the Catholic Church, they know they entertain divorce. There is plenty of yes say, then say, we say. But the fact here, we do know that the president was once upon a time married to Mrs. Frances Bio, formally, and that marriage they then decide for separate. But the fact that the Catholic Church now recognize divorce, so that in itself raised many eyebrows as to why then go give the green light for a wedding of this kind for take place within the confines of the Catholic Church. So this is where the problem lies, and at a very critical time. But we know say the Catholic Church did put out a release where anger, according to phone calls, messages, social media, anger a lot of people, and sometimes you try for understand the reason why. And some of the questions being asked is like, a church will understand the state of affairs in a country and therefore go look at the timing of a request made, as they make it clear to me that 3 years ago, this is before the now president became president, they approached the church, say they want for married again, but in the Catholic Church, to which the president is member. The president is a member of the Catholic Church. So if you want to do in wedding, not the Catholic Church. But because he been not married before, and this church not recognize divorce, so therefore there were many, many obstacles along the way. The Catholic Church decides, say, they meet the requirement and do a longer release, because it was very controversial, still remain controversial. But what do we know technically, as a land, I don't read a lot about this, I don't talk to friends, then we understand this, is although they don't entertain divorce, but they get something we then call annulment, which makes the marriage null and void by virtue of having served some time with your previous wife, estranged, on a not day together, on a day apart, so much so that the relationship cannot move forward, and on not get no dealing. So therefore, you can apply to the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church go annul that wedding day, which means that the wedding not be supposed for exist in the first place, or it never existed. Even though likely now they married you and they can't recognize divorce, but technically they can annul them after 3 to 5 years and say, well, you don't need this marriage, not be supposed to take place. So therefore they create an avenue in which you can then wed again. And this seems to have been the issue na the current debacle that we find ourselves. So there are two parts to this broadcast here tonight, which is one, from the political/legal side of things, and secondly, from a biblical church perspective. Okay, I think we got a caller. Yeah, hello. Will you state your name? I guess you want to make a contribution to the program tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Will you state your name and call in from, please?
Okay, this is Brother Supermed, and I'm calling from the United Kingdom.
Yes, Brother Supermed. Welcome to the program. Brother Supermed is no stranger to the program and this platform. So you're already aware what we are talking about here tonight, which is the president for the second time has wed his wife in a different kind of ceremony, the Catholic ceremony, which the president subscribed. The president is a member of the Catholic Church. He decided for marriage in the Catholic Church, a white wedding in Column. But it came about a time where very one, there's a lot of people angry about this. It's all over social media, so this is not being made up. The timing is that it was necessary, the timing, owing to the fact that the current state, the economic status of the country has difficulties, and a lot of people are struggling to make ends meet. So therefore, how could the president wed or at this time? Is there no empathy? So is it a misplaced priority, wrongful timing, or all of this? What's your take, please?
Well, thank you very much, Brother Prince, for having me on the program. I mean, I'm just going to talk about the economic aspects of it. You know, for instance, we all know, say, even the president, the first lady themselves, don't acknowledge, say, the gun guy. And the president is in the last ministerial retreat, telling government, say, this is not the year this woman deliver. Because and people they suffer up and down the country. The evidence are overwhelming. Everybody know. You know the semantics of the context for the president parents, maybe for say it's not a compulsory marriage, they don't married before. If you just want to do a Catholic marriage, so you get plenty of time for prepare them and do them when you know say it's much more convenient. Not for at a time where in city system, when they're in at the head of the country, now in they look after the country, they look after all the people them. Now like that, now the guardian at the one country they like today. When in city system up and down the country, they suffer, they cry because of what we can describe as an unprecedented economic situation when the country they face. You know, with all the challenges, with all the problems, for making the president decide, you know, for saying that the 10 this and celebrate. I mean, whatever happened, the president wedding for be lavish. You know, all the monies, them, all the amounts, them. I mean, people will say maybe this money will be government money. Questions, when are legitimate questions they ask. People where they suffer up and down that country, where before so where they plane. So man get in one place, yes, not trouble, not problem. If you sick for going to hospital, no problem. So these are all legitimate questions. So as the president of the republic, don't forget that feeling there for the people, and then for empathize with the people and say, well, the country got so much trouble and so much trials and tribulation. Like I'm focused on them. Make I put all the energy and strength and one of administration in force behind this issue. Now we see our best to be able to tackle and our best to be able to address them. So for the president in your own wisdom with the first lady, say, okay, don't forget about all those problems, all the suffering, all the trials and tribulation. Then we can make a large wedding. I mean, it send a very, very wrong message.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Kamara. Yes, indeed. A lot of people are sort of in sync with you, with what you're saying. That for sure we know from social media. But isn't it the act itself of marrying a good thing? Because this is ordained by God that it is good to have a wife. And even though things are difficult, could we look at this wedding from a different perspective with a different lens, like wait and see or speculate, which we hardly do on this platform, but what this wedding will bring for the nation? Do you think that it will bring anything different as to what is happening now, or you think things are relatively going to be the same?
Well, for the ordinary Sierra-Leoneans, things are even getting worse. Because every week the reports all about the country, up and down the country, every day, you know, even in the stronghold of these governments, in the eastern province of Sierra Leone, the southeastern province, in fact, people are dying. So what we expected of this government to have achieved by now, we haven't seen anything whatsoever. You know, there's constant rampant blackouts, rampant shortage of basic commodities, and so many other things. You know, recently we saw videos of children in one of the southeastern region, I think it was, and the children were out in the street demonstrating that there are no teachers. This is a flagship policy of this particular administration.
All right, Mr. Mr. Kamara. Before going down to all of the ills down in the society, let's keep it strictly within what happened, you know, here just today. Of course, all of these things have been highlighted as to why the wedding was not meant to be held, or the timing was absolutely not appropriate. But the church, do you have any criticism for the church? Because I want us to look at the church from the perspective of God. What are the expectations? Why was the church in the first place formed? How intertwined is the church, religion, and the Bible, and what all of these things call for? Isn't the church meant to be on the side of the people? If what you've just said is correct, like people are struggling and the rest, could they have said no to this wedding and, you know, be on the side of the people? Was this something they could have done? What's your thoughts on this, please?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the Catholic Church came out with a press release, and they have their doctrine in relation to marriages and everything like that. And I think, according to some of the releases that I saw on social media, is that the first wedding that the president had with the former wife, who was Fatima Bio, was not a Catholic ordained wedding. I think they might have done it somewhere, maybe in the civil, wherever that wedding was. So by virtue of that, that wedding was not recognized.
There are controversies. There are controversies around the release document by the Catholic Church, by the way, and it's a very technical sort of document that requires, like hawkish eyes to read and sound brains to kind of fine read through the prints and understand exactly what they were trying to say, because that letter has since been released, the marriage has been conducted, but there are many questions attached to that particular document, whether Mrs. Frances Bio at the time, whether that wedding took place within the Catholic confines. But when you read that document somewhere, it does sound as if it was conducted in a Catholic way. Somewhere we are hearing in Kenema at the time, and that still needs to be verified. But the idea here is, or the question that I'm trying to ask is, the church as a body, professing or teaching the Christ-like mannerisms, expectations, what Christ taught, how to be compassionate, kind, empathize with people, and the church is not only for the inner self, it's for, you have to be selfless. It has to be out, you're reaching out to the needy, not the affluent, not the wealthy, not supposed to pander to power, and it's not supposed to go by the diktats of the powers that be. So the question here is, could the church, owing to the present predicament in the country, which you were trying to highlight earlier, could they have said no to this wedding, or advised the president, in fact, that, Mr. President, please, the timing is not appropriate, sir. Could we do it some other time?
Yes, I'm seeing where the angle you're coming from, but the problem here is I'm very hesitant to critique the church because I haven't got all the facts, what they took into consideration with me. So I'm very, very hesitant, and I'm again laying the criticism to the side of the president, because the president is responsible for everybody in that country, including the church, including the whoever, the bishop, whoever in that particular church, are all citizens of Sierra Leone. So people are expecting the president, with the government, with a team of advisors, and so many other expertise around the government to make wise decisions. So for us, I mean, we could question some of the actual the decision making of the church, but we're gonna be ill-advised if we don't, because we haven't got all the facts in place to critically analyze the reason why the church allowed the wedding to go ahead.
Okay.
So we've seen along, like you said, a very somewhat ambiguous release that is really, really difficult to understand in detail what they're getting at. So, but that is the faithful. Whatever, I mean, the Catholic faithful, they will have to make that judgment. But for us as analysts, in terms of relation to the country and the president's decision, I think it's better for us to focus on the government and the president as the head of the government and their current decision. Why did they go ahead with this wedding? Why was this lavish wedding? I mean, like you said, it's a timing right.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Kamara, thank you very much for your contribution this evening. I guess your point is well taken. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Robert.
You're welcome. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that was a perspective from a routine guest on the show. And of course, he's just made the case bare, and he's obviously not happy about the wedding, the timing of the wedding, but he prefers, to blame the president himself, because he's got all the power and he could have said no to the wedding. He made a decision. But there's another view in which the church is kind of complicit. The church has got a role in the state, Of course, we're not twinning the church and the state, because there should be, and there is, a separation of the church and the state, religion and politics. But somewhere they do sort of complement each other. They do sort of collaborate. The church has got a massive role to play within the state. So the church, and this is part of the blame, could have said no, okay? They could have said no. But they released a 2-page document, and unlike what Mr. Kamara said, the 2-page document is one that we could go by if one has to make a judgment based on why the church went on to bless this wedding, to conduct the wedding, because that is the 2-page memo that was released for why they thought or believe that this wedding must go ahead, giving the clearance for it to go ahead. So anyway, the issue here is there are many steps, there are many things that one has to follow. You know, whilst to marry is a good thing, but wedding itself, the process itself, it's not an easy process. It's mental, it's exhausting, it's costly, and you name it. So preparations are made on many levels, many facets. Spiritually, you have to go through something. Mentally, you have to go through something. Financially, you have to go through something. And all of these at different levels need preparation. So you're not just going wedding women, wedding wives, no. And this goes exactly for the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church, we know, has got very, very serious, relevant principles that man has to abide by. Man has to abide by. So if I were to go to the Catholic Church saying that I want to get married, of course, there will be questions. If I am part of the faith, if I subscribe to the faith, there'll be many questions that will be asked. Verifications will have to be conducted. And there is a technical difference. That's why I talk about the term, where we all get confused, including myself, talking about holy matrimony and wedding. Two technically different meanings, even though they tend to want to look or sound or define as the same, depending on which side of the aisle you're looking at both, and especially in the Catholic Church that we are talking about today, there is a difference. There is a difference. Any person who wants to enjoy such relationship, has to be flexible in their relationship, they have to go and look for another denomination within Christendom, because the Catholic Church is very, very strict. Imagine the issue with divorce. This is why many eyebrows are being raised. I said we're going to look at two parts of this, which is the church, stroke the Bible, politics, stroke the law. We're talking about the biblical side and the religiosity of this, as in a faith, as the church of the Catholic dominion. We know, say, if the president, just like what he do, if whenever he decide, say, he wants married another woman, he get to go through a process. We know, say, he can choose for marriage if the law of the country so desire. Now, so the law say. He can marry as, you name it, X number of women them. But it has to be outside, not inside of the Catholic Church. The Catholics frown on such things because, again, they say something about the church and the denomination and the principles of the church, because this religion thing we talk about now, teaching the ways of Christ and waiting Christ been teach. Salvation, empathy, bringing the weak and the needy closer, praying for them, looking after mankind, going on mission to evangelize, to win souls for Christ. It's not the other way around. So when God endorsed married, now for let man and woman live together as husband and wife and do the works of God and avoid temptation, such as extramarital affairs. Although these things happen within marital affairs, which is a sin, but for avoiding temptations in day, it is good for a man to take a wife, vice versa for a woman to take a husband of the things. So marriage, in other words, is encouraged. So this is the good thing about marriage. It's encouraged in the first place. But let's not miss the point that the president was already wedded. And within the context that we speak on tonight, the economic situation in the country is difficult and people are struggling. Wedding cost money, so now I make the government bin come out and try for a VAT, allay people and fears as to how such a big ceremony where the first family will be wedding, bringing guests from different parts of the world, with all the structural things they wouldn't get for put up, all the preparation, now money they go into RAM. And this not to any kind cheap wedding, no matter how you try for restrict and call them private, because the word itself private now is used within a different kind of connotation. At some point, they want us to believe that, so private is the ceremony. And private, as we understand them, will be completely private, in which probably only a handful of the president's and the first lady's family will be invited, and very close friends that can just fit in the outfit within the use, like a church. But by every respect, we know that there was plenty of fanfare. And the more the fanfare, the more the money, okay? The more the fanfare, the more the money. But like I've been saying again, the president can choose for wed as many if the country in law allow that, but not within the Catholic Church. If you want to do so, you get to go to outside of the Catholic Church. So this why they managed look like find a way around it. The Catholic Church happened for be complicit, which is the bishop, okay, the head of the diocese, saying that they go ahead with this marriage. Okay, now we understand say that because contrary to arguments, it's been going on all week. I've been involved in this all week. We now understand that he be married to Frances, but that marriage has been annulled or had been annulled. And at that, then they tell we, remember there are two sides to this, because for this for go on, you get for clarify, say you want for let it go, where if there is an abrogation, okay, where if there's an obfuscation of the fact. So you get for build another story around this, and powerful people tend to get away with things them where they want to get away with. And if this is true, that the marriage has not been annulled, because we might hear Mrs. Frances for reach Mrs. Frances Bio. And by the way, if anybody is watching this program and you've got access or the contact for for Mrs. Frances, formerly Bio, will you please make her contact available or contact me? So I'll be able to contact her, or ask Mrs. Frances Bio for contact we please. So we can get the other side of the story regarding this annulment and the rest of it. So we know the real story. But we know say, for this to happen, you get for going to court. And when you go to court, you get for obtain something what they call civil divorce. But even when you obtain that within the church, okay, remember something when I talk about earlier, when I talk about holy matrimony, okay, and married or wedding, two technical terms. In fact, the most technical one we go on for talk about is matrimonial sacrament. Matrimonial sacrament within the Catholic Church. Okay, it make the entire process invalid. This now something we in Catholic theology. So this marriage is full of ifs and buts and controversies around them, and you go get for ask, why would you want something way full of happiness and joy, or we're supposed for full of happiness and joy, in which the first family are getting wedded again, in which the entire country is supposed to throw them weight behind the wedding. Pray for God for bless this wedding. Yeah, let anything this bride and groom desire, make it be them portion. Yet that again, because of politics, because of the timing, which you have to, you point directly at the organizers and the owners of the wedding, including the church, in my view, is just a beggar's belief. It really beggars belief. For let we understand some of this theology within the Catholic Church, then what they want to mention, the matrimonial saint / holy matrimony, and how seriously the Catholic Church, the Catholic Church, now massive, if not the biggest organization in the church. So not to calo business. This is really, really serious. And for tell you how seriously they take the matter there, we get for look at certain document them within the Catholic Church in itself. And I will just brush through them quickly because, of course, these are heavy documents, and I'll not be able for read or just few extraction for like we're able for do this production here and this broadcast here tonight. One of the sections inside the Catholic Church, the law book, where I believe in and call the Catechism. I remember I went to Cathedral Boys School, by the way. I was a lay reader, by the way, and we church. So then things that, but this is decades ago. So somewhere, some things then they come back, but of course that was at a very young age, probably 8, 9, 10, 11, something around that. Yeah. So if they frown against divorce, that make them not recognize them, and they see divorce as the equivalent of a criminal offense. This is the way the Catholic Church view. Just so now go get a feel of what they talk about. They see it like divorce like a criminal offense. Inside that doctrine, then them very, very offensive. It's a grave offense for when them bind you together, man and woman together, woman and man together, for let you broke that contract day. You see why the Catholic Church, not even the ordained female priests, tell you how they are serious. Why don't they marry other people of other religion? They're not their business in this regard. Not at all. And as usual, waiting and expect now that oath where you take, that swear where you swearing, where you say, a few days ago we talked about oath, the essence of oath. This is just part of it, where you end till death do us part. Till death do us part. So that's what they expect, nothing less, nothing more. But of course, times are changing, things are changing, and technically, even in law, you can find a way around things because nothing really remains static. People can get a saying where nothing else, everything else can change, but the Holy Bible and the Quran remain sacrosanct. Or even that, we know, say, when they see newer version, copyright, and the rest of it, and when they see the changes them inside for suit the time. If me want separate from my wife, for example, and I'm of the Catholic faith, I don't go look for another woman, automatically, I don't become a sinner. I commit what they call adultery. And if formerly my wife will do that, she herself, of course, the woman's side, an adulterer, because the blame they come to me, because I'm the man. I'm not be supposed to separate myself from me woman. So therefore, whatever crime that woman they commit, I'm also complicit in that crime day. These are some of the things that we did inside the Catholic book, the law. Okay? But today, we know say the president don't married. So let we go to the side of politics and to the side of law. We know say the president don't married. Was it lawful that the president should marry a second time, as at this time? Is there any law, and this is a question, not a statement that I make, is there any law that will have stopped, or any law that the president violates for marrying in sweetheart, in wife, for a second time? Should the state not be happy for see the president and in wife exchange marital vows once more within a denomination to which the president they subscribe to? Or was the president not being sensitive, and all of the planners, the advisors around the president, including the first lady, no one had a feel for the nation, for the people? Did no one? Don't get me wrong, Fambulem. I'm happy that the president got married the way I want to get married. If this will make the president happy, then of course in happiness will be the happiness of the nation. Because if he's a happy man and his obligations are being fulfilled maritally by his wife, his beautiful wife, then maybe the president will able to forget vision. It will begin to forget insight. It will begin to forget some understanding as to the plight of the people. Will begin to think about them more. And sometimes the marriage will come for help the nation as a whole. So if it's on that basis, absolutely, I mean support. But if you were to ask, like we asked the question, was the timing appropriate? Were there other priorities other than the wedding? Remember, this wedding can wait, by the way. It could wait for better times. It could wait when things will have turned around, like I'm hearing, like probably mid-year, things will turn around for the better for the people. But if this is so, and we wanted to avoid all the controversies around Mr. President and his dear wife, we could have waited for these things to turn around, because after all, who is going to turn them around? It's him and his team. So if this is true from what we're hearing, then sure enough, this wedding, all they needed to do was to shift the date towards the time when they know that they will have turned things around. But this is not the case. This is a case in which there is hardly ends meeting for people. A huge number of people are going to bed hungry. A huge number of people cannot afford basics. A huge number of people are complaining, and rightfully so, because they can barely put food on the table. They can barely run their homes. They can barely make ends meet. So the question is being asked, how could we go ahead with a marriage between the first family at this critical time in the country? Is it appropriate that the president should have gone ahead? Was the timing right for Mrs. Bio to say yes, the mother of the nation to say yes, whilst your subjects suffer? Are we saying that the government, the president, his advisors are out of touch? Is there no empathy for the people of the country? Because sure enough, if there were, then maybe there will have been second thought. Or is there any other reason why at this critical time, the president will have gone on with this wedding of his? Mr. President, now let me speak directly to the president. Let me speak directly to Mrs. Fatima Bio. Of course, I'll start with the First Lady. It is a fact that a lot of others will be envious of you. It's a given fact. There is, and it is a fact, that a lot of others will be jealous of you. It is a fact that millions of others will love to swap places with you. But Mrs. Bio, our beautiful First Lady, do you know, Madam First Lady, that you could have done yourself, hundreds and thousands of your fans, millions of Sierra Leoneans, millions of others who are beginning to admire you around the world as you make the office of the First Lady become one of being very proactive, will have endeared themselves to you very dearly, Madam First Lady, if you had shown some empathy towards your people, who happens to be in a vast majority. And when I say your people, I mean the entire nation. I don't speak in divisive language. I mean the entire nation. So taking aside those who support you, considering the many, the millions who find themselves in predicaments of some nature that they can't barely survive, and for a wedding to be held at a critical time such as this, in which one side of the nation is in anger, one side of the nation is in mourning, one side of the nation is suffering, one side of the nation cannot afford to feed their families, one side of the nation is not healthy enough, one side of the nation is not being paid on time, one side of the nation does not have running, clean drinking water, one side of the nation suffers darkness, one side of the nation, lights or energy is being appropriated. And then for us to hold a wedding which is about joy, which is about satisfaction, which is about fulfilling God's command, but at a critical time when it shall so be endorsed, if not even by everybody, but of course it's going to be by the vast majority. For you, Madam Fatima Bio, to not exercise caution, Her Excellency, as at this time, to show some empathy towards your people, is one that will haunt you for a long, long time to come. To the first gentleman, to His Excellency retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio. Sir, we know that there are many things ongoing in the country. I have no doubt that the predicament that the people are suffering now in terms of economics, you will very much like to wave a magic wand today to have that problem solved. But owing to other issues such as policies, which I've spoken of on many a times, the predicament that they find themselves in, because these policies are not well thought out through policies. The implementations is just wrong. The timing, just like the marriage itself, does look wrong. These policies are not tested, so they are not proven, and they are just being made, generated, and thrown out there. This is not the way policy or policies. If Your Excellency, the leader of this country, this great country of ours, we don't have two, we only have one. There is no substitute for this country as at this time. Mr. President, in as much as you are trying to turn things around, because at first there was a general notion out there that you don't care. I don't think you care about its people. No, not any. There are some reckless behaviors. There might be some reckless decisions, but overall, most times it's just on the basis of time, suggestions, proposals, actions that lead to these kind of things that happen, in which the net loss is the people, always the people. Because you, sir, and the first family, and those around, things are fine. But sometimes those rose-tinted glasses has to be taken off so that you can see the reality, Mr. President. You know, lately, after I got put off for a while, because I was one of the hopefuls when you ascended to power. And then there was a time when I thought it's like the president seems distant from his people. And this was by virtue of some of your actions, because things were happening, political corruption, political intimidation, you were not speaking. And then suddenly you made one or two statements in which you then own up, you then took responsibility. What those two short statements did was provided reassurance that indeed you are hearing, indeed you are seeing, and you ask your people to be patient, not for long more, but you believe that things are going to turn around. Remember, you made a statement, don't judge me now, judge me after my 5-year parliamentary term. In other words, so people can see what you have done or some of the promises that you made. Well, Mr. President, sir, don't you think with what is going on in the country, with so much hunger, disease, political intimidation, armed robberies on the rise, and this is becoming as a consequence of the state of urgency economically that the people find themselves in. Inflation is on the rise. Basic prices for goods and services is on the rise. Movement alone is kind of restricted because of cost. And then how can we hold a wedding, a first family wedding, as at this time, Mr. President, Mrs. Fatima Bio? How can we? This is a wedding that we all could have celebrated together, because it's a good thing when a man takes the hand of a woman as his wife. But unfortunately, while the country continues to be divided on the basis of politics, identity politics most of the time, and then this, it's like it's an insensitive situation in which there's a likelihood that one side of the mouth is saying one thing and the other side of the mouth is saying something else. Will there be a third wedding when things will have turned around so we all can celebrate together, Mr. President, Mrs. Jabi? Could we not have waited? Sure enough, we could have. I have no doubt about that. Absolutely, we could have done this. To the church, why are you not always far away from controversies? What is the role of the church? What is the role of the church? Can't the church advise? Doesn't the church realize the insensitivity in the timing of a wedding that they conducted? Could they not have said no? Did they or do they draw their powers from kings, queens, and presidents and powers that be? Or is it from God Almighty, the divine power that gives them the power to say yes, that gives them the power to say no? This is uncomfortable for the church, for the Catholic Church. This is not proper for a church to have conducted this wedding at this time. now being critical of the wedding at this time, and people need to note, I am married and I believe in marriage. But the first family, the first duty is to provide security, physical security, food security, health security, general security for its people. If its people are not being provided that security for as at this time, why then would you want to go ahead with celebrations? Celebration in which the people are not with you. Why would you want to continue to drive a wedge between you and the people? Why is everything or almost everything that's been done is ill-timed? We have to find a way, Mr. President, for redemption. Let's be honest. There can't be a notion, because I'm beginning to think this, that, okay, we are hearing the criticism or criticisms. We are fully aware that things are not going fine, but we are not to be blamed. But it is our duty that we will turn things around, and things will turn around. So we are of the opinion that these are your thoughts, that when things turn around, all of these ifs and buts and all of these critiques on social media will be a thing of the past. It will soon be forgotten about the people. It will be swept under the carpet. In fact, not under the carpet, it will be swept in the dustbin of history. Because under the carpet, at some point, you will have to go there again, and then the whole feeling start coming again. But let's remain hopeful, Mr. President, that the redemption will come in the sense that things will turn around. And when things turn around, we probably will have a general celebration of this wedding. But for now, this wedding, as per social media, which bears the brunt of public opinion, both at home and abroad, and other social annals, Facebook, Instagram, Instagram, and a little bit of LinkedIn. It shows that lots of people, not many people, are against the timing of the wedding. Not necessarily opposed to wedding, because generally these people will have been extremely happy with the wedding. Extremely happy with the wedding. But it's the timing that people are complaining about. If people are not having food, if people are having difficulties, if people are not being paid, if electricity is once more being rationed. I remember just a week ago, I talked about Lunge. I've got on the ground reporters, no one that gives me reports about these things. So we don't just make them up. I remember having the conversation, and I wasn't saying it just to criticize the government, but it's just raising this issue so that we talk about these things. But every time you talk about these things, you highlight them. People who preach divisiveness on social media, they immediately brand you as other. Either you are red, meaning you are APC, and I'm beginning to see party people themselves being critical of some of the things, which is a good thing. It's heartwarming. And it's interesting to note that when they do it in the same circles where people like us make the argument, then there's a different name, and the others that normally name people, they struggle. So criticism now means you belong to the other. So even when you wear the shoes, and the shoes is very tight enough, like what I'm talking about here tonight about the First Lady and the first gentleman that I'm speaking about here tonight, and it's in a critical fashion, but we are presenting evidence to that. Physical, circumstantial is available, and this is about the timing. So a wedding that all of us should have celebrated, a large number of us are left out because the circumstances on the ground are just not right for every one of us to celebrate. So find it really difficult, but this is just the fact. So I've spoken to the president directly. I've spoken to the first lady directly. I have no hesitation because the president has released a couple of videos or audios lately in which he's accepting that he's listening and hearing and things will turn around. And at some point, the president and the first lady, probably even tonight, because let me say something, ladies and gentlemen. Every human being has got conscience. The pastor, the bishop who conducted the wedding has got a conscience. The president and his lovely, beautiful, gorgeous wife, they've got conscience too. All those people who attended the wedding, they've got conscience too, just like every one of us. So as we retire to our private moments, that includes the first lady and the president, there will be time for reflection. All these fabulous guests smiling. Do you think that all of them was in favor of this wedding today? Do you think some of them did not empathize with Sierra Leoneans, but some of them will not have a choice? They have to turn up. The president has got conscience and probably will have second thought, although they will have thought about this before going ahead. But again, who knows? But having said this, tonight, there will be time for reflection. And hopefully tomorrow, as a new day dawns, we see exactly when we will have gathered all the information on social media, the truths versus the lies, the realities versus the non-realities, the fakes versus the facts, the verdict, undoubtedly. Any doubt on my side, I believe, will be on the president and the first lady making a decision in which the timing was terrible. It was a terrible, terrible kind of timing. So let me leave you on this note. Again, there will be time for reflection for every one of us. Sunday, please join me. Please share this video. The people need to know that there are people who are not really happy with this wedding that was conducted today. You cannot have one side of your population in tears, and then you have another side of the population laughing, enjoying, pomp, pageantry, celebration. That in itself is divisive, and you don't want to be the one that's conducting divisive actions in the country. There are many people within that agree that the timing was wrong. Why they did not think about this timing and do it at this time, I would really, really like to know. Because it will be a callous situation or action for you not to reflect the minds, the situations of your people. I've used the word empathy many times in this broadcast, but it's so essential. Because if there were empathy on the side of Papa President for his people, then he will actually see that the timing was not appropriate. It should have been a wedding in which it should have been, or everybody else in the country should have been involved. Unfortunately, this is not the case. Please join me on Sunday. We'll be talking on the topic, the importation of poverty. You see, Fambulem, despite some of us leaving or trying to leave poverty behind, came to the Western world, and one of the major reasons why people move around, why we become nomads, is to find better pastures, much more described as greener pastures. Unfortunately, some of us have come to the Western world, and all we've discovered again is poverty. And it's worse because Like Bob Marley said, in the abundance of plenty, yet people are lacking. And for some of us, this is the situation here. So we want to critically look into this situation and see, why have people moved away from poverty, yet poverty has followed them? Is it because they are boisterous? Is it because of ignorance? Is it because of misplaced? So we look at this situation deeply, and we want to look at the spiraling effect on what poverty does. It displaces families, how families get torn apart because of poverty. You can't afford to give your children, and your children are in want of things, because the facts here are, in this part of the world, it's about values, it's about property, it's about all these things that these people see through the shop window. In short form, it's called capitalism. You have to be able to afford to get it for them. This is your obligation, this is your priority. That's why you go to work. Video games, trainers, fashionable clothes, and all kind of gadgets. They are in the plenty. And once you cannot, they tend to stray away from you, and they become problems both at school, in which they are expelled from school. And once they're expelled, they go out there. This is where the gangs are waiting to recruit our children. And gradually we know what becomes of our kids. And we want to look at that. And we're going to be introducing some organizations, who are going out there to be helping to sensitize the nation and the communities, so that we can be aware. Where can we go to for help? Because some of these things, actually, advantage is being taken over us, because the way some of these issues are being dealt with when it comes to minorities, it's not the same way it's been dealt with when it comes to others who are not minorities. I'll give you a little bit of statistic, and I will close, because this is what we're going to be talking about on Sunday. School exclusion for minorities, especially blacks. In England, you have over 2,000 exclusions from school. This is the statistics, fact. Whereas in places like Scotland and Ireland and the other nations making up the UK, you've got like 165 to 200 pupils on an entire school year. Whereas in England, 2,000 a day. Look at these numbers. And it's black children, it's our children. And the question is why? Will it be all their fault? Do they go through the appropriate methods up to the point that they take those actions and exclude them? So there's an organization, and pretty soon we'll be bringing them to your doorsteps to conscientize you on how you can go about avoiding these things. Social problems like council housing, legal advice, just like what the Citizens Advice Bureau does. But they will go the extra length, the extra mile of going along with you. Not just, show you references and advice, but they will go the extra length. So join me on Sunday. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I've said enough, and I've just gone past the 1 hour mark that I wanted to broadcast. So I will end here. Thank you very much for listening. Today, the 22nd, the 21st of February 2020, I've been your host and presenter, Prince Emil Krumah. Please share this video far and wide. God bless you all, and have a proper weekend. Goodbye for now.
Succulent. Baby, don't worry,
Okay, Fambulem. Thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to share this video with others, okay? Until Sunday, the 23rd, same time, same place, this Sunday. I've been your host and presenter, Prince Kromade. Say good night and thank you all for tuning in. Good night. Or bye-bye.